talking about Julius Caesar. Written in 1599, the play written by William Shakespeare describes the overthrow and tragic death of Julius Caesar. To provide some background, let me explain. Caesar was the dictator of Rome around 45 BC. The conspirators, Brutus, Cassius, and Casca, as well as many more, planned to kill Caesar because they thought it was what was best for Rome. They feared that Caesar would make Rome a monarchy and enslave all the people for his own ambitious purpose. Cassius and Casca wanted to overthrow Caesar, but they knew that they needed the support of someone who had a lot of followers, Marcus Brutus. They proceeded to manipulate Brutus into believing that the people of Rome were crying out for his help in order to overthrow Caesar. After gaining Brutus' aid, the conspiring senators plot the death of the great Julius Caesar. While the play may be called Julius Caesar, this is very deceiving. Caesar is actually only in 5 scenes of the entire 5-act play. But back to the plot. Brutus is going to help kill Caesar. Cassius is out for blood and wants to kill Mark Antony too, but Brutus decides that one death is enough, and by doing this, saves Mark Antony's life. However, this in turn guarantees the own senator's demise. Alright, I know I gave something away, but I'll explain it pretty soon. Must be an ancient Roman artifact. I wonder what it says. I'll send a picture to my expert.
So, according to the picture that you sent me, the strange inscriptions talk about how Caesar's death was fated by the stars. In fact, his wife had a dream where he died, and she told him to beware of the Senate. Also, a soothsayer, which is kind of just like a fortune teller, told him to beware the Ides of March.
Beware the 15th of March?
Yeah, to beware of the 15th of March. Now, you might be wondering why a soothsayer would even tell Caesar about his fate, but that leads directly into the idea of fate versus free will. If the soothsayer knew that Caesar's fate was a certainty, then why would he tell him? Well, Caesar ends up dying anyways, just like it was predicted. However, if his free will is considered, then is it his actions that lead to his predetermined death? Furthermore, is it his free will that leads to his fate? My head's starting to hurt just thinking about all these possibilities.
Thanks. Part of Caesar's neglect arises from the debate over the power of written language over spoken words. Is what you say any more powerful than what you write? In the play, letters serve as a symbol of neglected power. The power of a letter is held in the ability of the writer to specifically address the reader and any potential concern. Throughout the play, letters with important messages have been ignored, yet the speech of so few held so much power. Before you reach the all-defining conclusion, if spoken words were truly powerful, why didn't Caesar listen to the soothsayer and his wife? Or is the power of spoken words behind the illusion of the person speaking? That would explain why the soothsayer was ignored, and Antony's speech brought the masses to their feet. Now that brings us to the actual stabbing. I guess we now know where the term backstabbing comes from. The poor guy fights to death, but once he sees his old friend Brutus among his killers, it's too much, and he dies. But afterwards is where it really becomes interesting. How was Caesar unaware of all the backroom deals? This is because of the verbal power that Shakespeare has. By switching his writing style to traditional blank verse, he gains new power and flexibility. The traditional blank verse allows the dramatic irony to be portrayed, while the characters are nonetheless wiser. But the death itself, Brutus' actions raise another important theme in the play: politics and morality. While Brutus was absolutely certain that Rome must not become a monarchy, he felt that it'd be better to sacrifice one for all. Not quite the Three Musketeers motto, I know, but in Brutus' opinion, that was the only logical decision. But was it right? He tries to limit the amount of total deaths by letting Antony live. Not that I'm a cynical person, but wouldn't it be better to kill off any potential opposition instead of risking a full-blown civil war? In Antony's speech, the very situation begins to occur.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Well, you get the idea. With citizens as loyal as teens are to social networks, it's no surprise that the fickle Roman subject easily changed their support. One moment, they're demanding Caesar to be declared king, and the next, they're calling for his death. When Brutus finally gives them what they demand, he is then considered a traitor. Antony is well aware of this in his political eulogy. Political eulogy, yes, a political speech using the death of Caesar in the play. The rhetorical questions he uses, such as, quote, "Did this in Caesar seem ambitious?" end quote, raises some serious flaws in the citizens' thoughts. Also, in the same monologue, Antony litters each sentence with irony and sarcasm. Quote, "I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him," end quote. We all know that Caesar and Antony have the first recorded romance in the history of romances. Meanwhile, he was supposed to be painting a glorious picture of Brutus, but only shells out backhanded remarks.
Sorry for all that talk. You must be dying. No pun intended. But Mark Antony has simply outdone himself. Maybe it's the fact that he can no longer hold on to Caesar's robe tail, that he is forced to reveal his true nature. While the supposedly honest and virtuous Brutus believes that Antony understands and can reconcile with the moral and ethical killing of Caesar, Antony does not and begins to plot his revenge. When it is revealed that Caesar, with all of his ambition, leaves his entire estate to the good of the common people, public opinion begins to shift, and Antony uses Caesar's torn and bloodied body to do the rest. And it is the same blood that is a recurring symbol throughout the play that represents and signifies several things. While the blood flowing through your vein represents valor, honor, and courage, the blood on the ground from Caesar's body represents political turmoil and chaos. While Brutus, with the blood readily shown on his face like a girl wearing makeup, tries to convince the people that it represents the liberty that they will receive once Caesar is dead. To most people, and Mark Antony, it represented murder. Also, Mark Antony's speech continues a motif throughout the play in which the power of the spoken word trumps the power of the word inscribed on a letter.
Hey, this is my video. To make matters worse, the conspirators take total pride in the murder that they just conducted. Carpe diem was the motto for Antony, as he and Octavius were able to seize the moment. Who knew that it would be Octavius that actually became Rome's first emperor? Caesar's assassination was not an earth-shattering event that brought the Roman Republic to its feet. It simply accelerated the trend in which the lucky one, Octavius, would hold all power. Following the hunt of the traitors, civil unrest broke out in Rome. In Act 5, Scene 3, Brutus's army falls.
In Act 5 of Julius Caesar, the final battle between Octavius, Mark Antony, Brutus, and Cassius takes place. It begins with Antony and Octavius. "Yo, Antony, pay up! I told you they would come!" Here, we see Mark Antony and Octavius discussing Brutus and Cassius's forces arriving in Philippi. However, Brutus and Cassius want to talk to Antony and Octavius, not jump right into battle. "Good sirs, shall we discuss before we fight? Words are far better than blows." While Brutus and Cassius did kill Caesar, they believed it was for the best of Rome, and that Octavius and Antony were the true traitors. When both sides realized this war is inevitable, Brutus and Cassius, longtime friends, said a heartfelt goodbye. "1,000 farewells, Brutus. If we do meet again, we shall smile at our actions now." Brutus then told his servant Messala to signal his troops to attack Octavius's army, but it was too early. Cassius's troops ran off as they were surrounded by Antony's men. Cassius sent his best friend Titus to discover if their camp was being attacked, and believed he sent him to his death. Cassius could not take the guilt and stabbed himself in the chest. "I am but a coward, for I have stayed here while my best friend has been slain by our enemy. I shall slay myself with the same blade that slayed Caesar." When Titus discovers Cassius, he bestows a wreath upon his head, for they had actually won the battle. Then, stricken with grief, he too stabs himself. Brutus and the other men find Titus and Cassius next to each other. "Oh, Caesar, you do haunt us! You could not have found 2 more noble men in Rome. Keep your heads up, men! We must win this war!" Unfortunately for the so-called rebels, Antony and Octavius's forces are just too strong, and they soon defeat their army. When Brutus realizes the probable outcome of the situation, he too takes his own life. "Now, Caesar, you can soundly rest. I did not kill you so willingly as I have myself." Octavius and Antony realized that Brutus truly had the interest of Rome at heart, not jealousy of Caesar. "Antony, dude, this guy was a great guy. Let's give him what he deserves now. Give him all the honors and that stuff."
Finally, Caesar's death has been avenged.
So now you have the idea. Then Brutus asks one of his soldiers to hold out his sword, and Brutus runs on in, killing himself. Brutus kills himself because the ghost of Julius Caesar told him that it was his time to go. As he dies, he declares that running onto his sword is the only way that he can die honorably. This is true symbolism, seeing that the same sword that killed Caesar kills Brutus. Before his death, Brutus dreamt of Caesar's ghost, who promised they would meet again on the battlefield. When Antony and Octavius see Brutus's dead body, they praise him, saying he only did what he thought was best for Rome. And that made him a truly honorable man, so he is given an honorable burial. Talk about backtracking. Weren't you just on your way to kill him? Oh, okay, but as long as he's honorable. And what is a better love story than Romeo and Juliet, Julius Caesar is a play in which rich characters engage in a series of backstabbing and conniving actions that undermine the entire idea of friendship and democracy. Yet, when the end comes along, the characters do happen to have a sense of remorse and grief. Instead of watching The Real Housewives of Hollywood, culture yourself and read Julius Caesar.